Thanks for listening to a Midwest Conversation podcast. If you want to listen to the show a day early for free, head over to midwestconversation.substack.com and use your email to sign up. You'll get the audio version of the show sent right to you every Saturday at 9 a.m. If you want even more, there's a video version of the show that drops on Friday nights. That show is only available for paying members, $5 per month, and every Friday the video version of the show will be sent directly to your inbox. Head on over to midwestconversation.substack.com to sign up. If you can, become a paid member. You'll get the video version of the show on Fridays, and it helps support me and keep the show independent. Thanks very much. Back to the show.
Mr. Joseph Biden, our sleepy president, gave a speech the other day regarding the gun violence issue in America. Now, if you watched or heard the speech that he did in April and that I covered on this very show, I will leave a link to the highlight for that in the show notes. You can watch that or go re-listen to that episode. So it really was an echo of what he said in April. Essentially, he is going to try and move the appointing of an ATF leader. Let's see, what was that guy's name? David something. I could have swore I wrote it down somewhere. Confirming of Dave Chipman as the leader of the ATF. That was a big thing on his agenda. Also, let's see, the big things are cities and states can use their portion of the $350 billion direct aid from the COVID-19 rescue plan approved by Congress in March on public safety efforts, including hiring more police officers. Let's see, the Justice Department policy will now allow the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, to revoke federal license for gun dealers for the first time they violate federal law. He said that the violations include include selling firearms to somebody who's not allowed to own a weapon, not like a convicted felon or something. Failing to run background checks or falsifying transaction forms and other records. Let's see. Public schools can also use their share of the $122 billion they received in COVID aid for community violence intervention programs and public safety strategies. It's clear that Biden is not on the side of the defund the police Democrats that have been chanting. Well, not really the Democrats. It's more of like the progressive left that have been chanting the defund the police all summer. It's clear he's not on that side. He reiterated it a bunch of times during the speech that the money is going to go for hiring new and more police officers. He's going to create strike forces to combat gun violence in 5 cities: New York City, Chicago, San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, and D.C. Let's see, he's going to crack down on illegal gun dealers. Like he said in April, he wants to get rid of the ghost guns you can buy online. He also met with a bipartisan group of city, community, and law enforcement leaders to develop a strategy of gun violence. He's going to invoke a zero-tolerance policy for gun dealers who willfully fail to run background checks, sell firearms to people who are not allowed them, all that sort of stuff. He went over policies that we know work, like background checks. He kept reiterating that point. He also wants to push Congress to pass assault weapon bans and bans on multi-round magazines, and also they're going to try and classify pistols with stabilizers and certain muzzles that give you more stability when holding the weapon. They want to classify those as assault weapons as well, so those will be banned in this plan if it makes its way through Congress. It won't, just letting you know. And they also want to create community programs. He called them, let's see, what did he say? He used a specific word. I wrote it down. Give me 1 minute here. Intervention programs, funds for community interrupters. And these are community officials and programs in extremely violent communities, people who are not police officers, who would be called in to try and de-escalate any sort of violent altercation before the actual law enforcement needs to be called in to try and help, mitigate the deadly force that we're seeing. He said, quote, "It is not time to turn our back on law enforcement. The White House will work with 15 different jurisdictions around the country to help stop violent crimes." Let's see. He wants to reauthorize. He said this all in April. Reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act, which is a law that helps victims of domestic violence, and that law also would make it illegal for anyone who is convicted of domestic violence as an abuser to own a firearm. He calls that closing the boyfriend loophole. Let's see. Banning assault weapons, I already said. Confirming Dave Chipman as the leader of the ATF. This is an interesting one. He wants to allocate funds to allow the CDC to research gun violence and double the budget to research gun violence as a public health crisis. And he also wants to use some funds to support the development of smart gun technology. Andrew Yang actually talked about smart gun technology when he was running for president. Guns that are like only work if a certain like handprint or fingerprint is on the trigger or the grip of the weapon. If that is real and that can be developed, that is probably really cool. That way it would, mitigate the small children from getting hurt with weapons that they find, or if someone steals a gun, it won't go off or it won't fire if it's not being used by the proper person. Kind of neat. He wants to purchase gunshot detecting technology. I don't know what that means. But then he went into how cities and communities can use the $350 billion that they have from the COVID relief, any leftover funds, to use the money for mental health support for gun violence victims, summer job programs for high-risk city teens, saying, quote, so teens can pick up a paycheck instead of a pistol. He also wants rehabilitation programs for people out of prison so they can get job training and skills to go into the workforce instead of falling back into a life of crime. That was pretty much it. He ended with a very Biden-esque quote saying, "This shouldn't be a red or blue issue, it's an American issue." So, there's that. Like I said back in the video I did in April, all of this is just talk right now. None of this is actually going to happen unless a legitimate legislation is crafted and makes its way through Congress. Now, the assault weapon ban, I can see them passing some sort of law about background checks and ghost guns and these strike forces that they're going to assemble. They can do all of that without any major legislation. So that'll probably happen. But banning specific weapons and reclassifying specific weapons as assault weapons and this whole multi-magazine, multi-round situation, that is going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be a long time if it even passes at all. The gun lobby has a lot of money, and the NRA will stop at nothing to make sure that nothing changes in the states for gun laws. So we'll have to look at it, and we'll have to keep an eye on it closely and see if it's going to get done this term, or if it'll wait if he gets reelected to a next term, or if he doesn't get reelected and another Democrat who is similar to him, like a Buttigieg or a Kamala Harris type person, if they get elected, I'm sure they will continue this. But yeah, it's going to take a while for that to happen, and I don't think the assault bans and everything else like that are going to happen at all, just because of the history of the country and how much of a polarizing issue that is. If it does pass, it's going to be... There's going to have to be a significant compromise, and I don't think it will be to satisfaction that Joe Biden is hoping for, just because of how difficult it's going to be and how much of superpower he's going up against in the gun lobby. So